My name is Natasha Santos. I lead our global partnership group at BioCrop Science. I think from my conversations with stakeholders, traveling around the world in this global role, I do strongly believe that we all have the same goals, right? The goals are to create a system that really enables to eliminate hunger, that really enables to ensure good nutrition, that really enables how we can do that while respecting and protecting the environment. And more importantly, or as important, make sure that we enable livelihoods in the transition and, in this case, in food systems. So companies like mine, but I think the private sector in general, is doing a lot, but can do much more. And I think what we can contribute is really to make things the size that are needed, the speed and the scalability that are needed. In our case, as Bayer, we can contribute in innovation in areas like seeds, in areas like biotechnology, in areas like modern crop protection, biologics, digital innovation, which is really, really critical for the sustainable future that we all want in agriculture. As a value chain, as a group, so thinking downstream and upstream, collectively we can incentivize sustainable outcomes, for example, water optimization, greenhouse gases reduction, for example, in agriculture, including on farm, but as well in the food system, and that with the ambition to bring new income and to bring farmers' profitability. Again, they are major agents and an important group in the system.
Please join our next seminar in the Catalyst of Change series.
Welcome to the Catalyst of Change Women Leaders in Science seminar series. There is interpretation available in Spanish, French, and Hindi. You choose the language of your preference by clicking the translation button at the base of your Zoom screen. We invite you to follow us in LinkedIn, YouTube, and social media using the hashtag Women in Science for the Catalyst of Change Women Leaders in Science seminar series. We invite you to submit your question and comments on Slido to be addressed in the Q&A session. We will be hearing today from an agribusiness leader and sustainability expert, Natasha Santos, leader of sustainability and strategic engagement at Bayer. Natasha Santos will have a conversation with Carolina Sansaloni, a molecular geneticist, Whittier-Maplasson Bank curator, and leader of the Genetic Analysis Service for Agriculture at CIMMYT. Now, I would like to welcome Brian Govards, Director General of CIMMYT, to officially open the event and introduce our distinguished speaker, Natasha Santos, today. Dr. Govards, over to you.
Thank you, Isabel. And once again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. I wish to welcome you warmly to our next Catalyst of Change Women Leaders in Science webinar. At CIMMYT, as you by now know, we launched a TED Talk meets fireside chat style series on women leaders almost a year and a half ago now, because we wanted more women leaders in science institutions like ours. To achieve this goal of a broader representation and a gender balance and different viewpoints, different colors, different opinions in what we do every day in our primary process, there's a need to provide more opportunities to hear from women leaders, their life journeys, their lessons, their insights, so we can all become a better version of ourselves. Therefore, in this series, we highlight women that are leaders in all sorts of capacities, in the field, in the community, in the business, in the different areas of where they operate, in their own families, because we believe that leadership styles can take very many different forms. It is therefore that I'm today very honored to have with us Natasha Santos as our 21st Catalyst of Change speaker. Natasha is a seasoned executive to whom I have utmost respect, as she has more than 19 years in agriculture, food, and life sciences. She's leading currently a very dynamic team that is really driving change in the deepest core of business, and she integrates sustainability seamlessly into the operations of her company. She's driving value and resilience for farmers and for consumers, through innovation and partnerships. Natasha actively engages with stakeholders to foster on an equitable manner sustainability initiatives. She's advocating for agricultural transformation, and she's really empowering communities all through the world. She serves as a vice chair of the business at OECD's Food and Agricultural Committee, and she's a member of the task force on nature-related financial disclosures. And as a senior advisor to the World Economic Forum Champions for Nature's Network, she's also influencing the next generation. I'm therefore very sure that you will not only enjoy Natasha's presentation, but of course also the fireside chat with our own catalyst of change, Carolina, who will have a conversation after the presentation. Therefore, without further introduction, let's listen to two Shiros who will bring you on a life learning journey. Over to you, Natasha.
Thank you so much, Bram, for the introduction. I am very honored to be here with all of you today. It's incredible, and I salute the initiative of getting us talking and doing this for more than a year. So congratulations, and thank you everyone for joining today. Today I don't have slides. I wanted to make this as interactive as possible, so I hope we have enough time to engage with all of you that are joining today, because I think as we address your specific questions, as you relate to some of my history or maybe some of the work that I had the honor to be doing for the past almost 20 years, then maybe we can address things that are really relevant to you. But I think on the opening, you have heard a bit about myself and what I do. I am very happy to be at this moment leading such an important function within biocrop science, so the agricultural division. Food and agriculture, I think for all of us that are in this sector or had the pleasure to be working in this sector, is such a purpose-driven sector to be working. And I think once you're in it, it's so hard to leave, because for me, one of my main motivations, and I'll talk a little bit about it, it's really being able to provide solutions and to be able to empower communities, particularly rural communities and farming communities around the world. So that's what makes me get up every day from my bed and be resilient and engaging on things that I believe are really transformation. So as I mentioned, today I lead the sustainability and strategic engagement team at Biocrop Science. One of the reasons that I decided to stay, that I joined the private sector and decided to stay in the private sector for almost 20 years, and in respecting every sector, because we're all very important in the ecosystem, but my personal experience with the private sector that really engaged me to be in it and stay in it in a company like Bayer at the moment is that global footprint and that ability to be able to bring things to scale fast, right? In a private sector, big organization like ours, but in a fast and a scalable way. So one of the things that motivate me is really how systemic relevant a company like Bayer can be and other major players in the agribusiness. But as well, I take that as a big responsibility for us to be, as a responsible company, driving positive impact in cropping systems where we operate on. So it is very exciting to be able to bring that impact to scale, but as well, I do take that responsibility very seriously when we are thinking about transformation. And that's my motto of leading a function like sustainability in this company, because what myself and my team, what we do with our commercial organization, with our research and development organization, is really to think about how do we set targets for that impact. What is the contribution and the transformation that we can do in cropping system? For example, when we are bringing an innovation like short starch to corn, that aims to really change a cropping system like corn, to think about rotations, to think about positive outcomes in terms of regenerative agriculture, reduction of emission, sequestration of carbon, increasing resilience. So how do we set ourselves to success in terms of establishing those targets in research and as well in future business models? but how that brings value to our customers who are the farmers themselves. So that integration, that long-term vision of course, commercial success, profitability success to the farmers, but that transformational into a more resilient agricultural system. That's the type of contributions and the type of strategies that myself and the team do in the company with functions like R&D and commercial. So how we incentivize them to really integrate that into the business, and happy to talk a little bit about that when we have the Q&A. So that's about what I do, but a little bit about me, which is not always I've been in so many engagements with thousands of people talking about content, talking about strategy, talking about transformation in the food system. But talking about me makes me shy, but I'm happy and excited to share a little bit of my journey, because of course that makes me who I am and really influences the decisions that I make in my personal life, but as well in my professional. So as maybe some of you have seen, I'm a Brazilian living in Germany now for almost 6 years, a little bit more than 6 years. At the moment, talking to you from the US on the Midwest in St. Louis, Missouri. My background is I come from a family of, I would say, very strong women, starting with my great-grandma that immigrated from Italy to Brazil a long time ago, war times, like many of the European immigration in our countries. Well, her whole life history, it's very inspirational. The fact of moving to Brazil, the fact of starting a family there from scratch, and the fact of keeping that family united and serve as a very opinionated, very strong figure, but as well a reference for all of us. My great-grandma as well is my best friend. She still is. She has been always very supportive, and she has had as well a life of inspiration. She was a widow very young, in a time where widows wouldn't really, women find jobs easily. So she needed to move hundreds of kilometers away from her hometown to be able to find a job and raise her 3 young kids, including my mother, who is another very strong woman that have survived as a small business in times of very challenging economic situations in Brazil, who is familiar to the Brazilian economy and politics. That was the color time, the time of inflation. So she had to reinvent herself many times to raise myself and my brother. So you see, it's I would say very inspirational, but as well, I am the fourth generation to carry that, let's say, example of strong women, which makes me very honored. Sometimes I might be a bit tough of myself as well. But they made me have this drive, and they made me be fearless. And what I am really thankful for those women is that I've never been afraid of taking risks, which has made my career journey as well exciting, but as well put me in a place where I could try new things and not feel afraid of really taking risk. And I think that makes a big change when you're trying to do real transformational things, either in science or in business or in public sector as well. So I would say that fire inside of me, thanks to those women leaders. So that's a little bit of my background. As I mentioned, my excitement, I've been in food and ag for 20 years and almost 20 years, and that's hard now to leave. So I've been working at BASF in the past. I work at Mars, the M&M company, and for 10 years now at Bayer. And I'm so excited to work on the input sector because it's so close to the farmers and the farming community, which is what really excites me. I would describe myself personally as like a knowledge seeker. My background is in political science, international relations. So I was 6 years ago, I think I was the first non-chemist or biologist or geneticist to join the R&D function in Bayer. I joined in regulatory policy. I think I was the first one in human science to be in a leadership position there, and which makes me very honored. It helped me to learn a lot. I am for the human sciences. I am an expert in genetics, and for the geneticists, I am a politician. So I think I bring that diversity, but I'm able to engage and drive strategies maybe from my openness to learn, my interest in learning a lot of things, and maybe my different way and the diversity of bringing different point of views in certain discussions with our R&D function or our strategy function. So that has been very much fun in my career, and makes me very excited. So maybe to close and start our dialogue a little bit, I think maybe two things. I mentioned about diversity of thoughts. I think I've learned that as someone that seeked for mentorship. So throughout my almost 20 years of my career, one thing that I've done very proactively was embrace diversity. Of course, really being a champion of gender diversity and women empowerment, but diversity in the bigger sense of things, welcoming people with different backgrounds, welcoming people in teams with different expertise area, different, when we think about ages, gender, etc. And that made all the teams that I've led or the projects that I joined stronger. And I think sometimes it's kind of, I suppose for this audience, straightforward, but to foster this intentionally, it's something that needs continue leadership and continue intention of all of us. So that diversity proactively. And then the second thing, I've always seeked for mentorship in a very proactive way, right? So I didn't wait for former, let's say, initiatives from the company. I always, if I would admire someone for a specific reason, their background, their knowledge, or something that I thought could be of a value to my career development in terms of knowledge seeking, I would always reach out to certain leaders and be very intentional and very specific on the things that I would like them to help me with. And that really helped me to make certain decisions in my career. For example, when I decided to move to Germany, when I decided to join a function where I was probably the first human scientist, a political scientist. So really get out of my comfort zone and take a few risks to learn, but as well to contribute with further impact in the organization that I was in. So maybe for the future, I would say I would like to share that has been a big change in my life. And sometimes it wasn't easy. Not that everybody was opening doors and saying, yes, of course I have time. I understand that people sometimes don't have time or maybe couldn't help, but most of the time the help was there. And particularly from women, which I think I'm blessed because men as well, but I had great women supporting me, and that's something nowadays that is really important for my leadership as well, making sure that we create those networks and we support each other in terms of sharing information, sharing knowledge, and really lifting us all women together. So I always go extra mile if I can, because I think for the whole ecosystem that we are operating is really important. So it made a change. It made a difference in my career. And maybe last thing that I wanted to share in terms of I have one thing that I'm trying, maybe it's not perfect, I'm trying to, and maybe to women, I do not have kids, so that role I do not do today, but we women do so many roles in our lives. So work-life balance is really important. I wouldn't say I'm an example on that. It's a constant improvement journey for me. But I have learned that to be really resilient, you really need to try to find time, for example, to really stop, turn off things, spend time with your loved ones, re-energize, take time for vacations, even if you need to break them into little pieces, because that is really re-energizing. And I think what really helps you keep moving and making those big transformational things that we all want to do. So I think I talked a lot. I talked too much. Let me pause here and let's start engaging. And I'm happy to talk further about what I actually do, about some projects, and maybe more of a personal journey as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha, for this great introduction and great talk. And hello, everyone. Well, my name is Carolina Sansaloni, and I am a member of the CIMIT Woman in Crop Science group. And I wanted to interview Natasha because she's an inspiring woman with a strong commitment, not only sustainable agricultural practices, but also empowering farmers, stakeholders, and women farmers. So I found very, very interesting this interview. So I would like to start by asking you, Natasha, how do you see the role of women in agriculture has changed from, let's say, 10, 20 years ago to this day? And definitely there is a change, but what areas are still lacking or missing in this change?
Thank you for the question, Carolina, and I'll ask right back to you as well. But I think, first of all, what I think we all have witnessed is that we have more and more women in leadership position when we think about international development organizations, when we think about chairs of research areas in agriculture, when you think about leading research researchers as women, and when you think about private sector, we have seen more and more women leading certain discussions and being a reference. And I think that's very positive and has helped us to foster that proactive network. Today, I have a group of women that I reach out in different sectors as thought collaborators, as women that can challenge me as well, and women that I can relate with. And maybe 15 years ago or 20 years ago when I started my career, I couldn't see that. So we had it, but not in that amount. So I'm very happy and inspired that we can create those networks. I think the gap that we have, and I've been in places in Asia recently, I think when we look at we know that women as farmers, they represent a large portion and majority of the farming community. But when we start to go up in the ladder of decision making, not in all countries, we see the same portion. We see less and less and less women. And particularly women owning business. I had discussions in India recently, and other places around the world where we really need to be intentional to give those women empowerment and leadership. Sometimes there's laws that prevent, sometimes there are cultural aspects that prevent women from in certain rural communities from taking leadership and having their own business. So we have been discussing, for example, in our organization with some partners, we have initiatives like Better Life Farming, which is a last mile approach. Those are kiosks that sell inputs, but as well bring agronomic advice to farming communities in distant rural areas. So can we have a target where we train and we get women to be some of those entrepreneurs that are leading those kiosks and those business? So can we set ourselves as an agent of change with those rural communities? one step. Another step is, can we partner with international organizations, development organizations, to have dialogues with those communities to show the importance of women. One thing that I've been personally a strong advocate about land ownership, which I mentioned that unfortunately there are some laws that still prevent those type of things for women. So how can we be intentional and be one agent of changes to get women empowered on all levels of agriculture? So I would say that's something that we need to continue to drive, because it's a journey that's still not there.
Excellent, thank you. And I came across your work regarding empowering women in rural areas, as you just mentioned. Could you please tell us an example that impact you of a rural family, or the role of the woman in this family that really make you think of a change?
Yeah, thank you. One of the things that were very impactful for me personally, I share a little bit of my own life journey with all those strong women in my family, was a visit to Kenya, to one of the rural communities in Kenya. And we were together with one of our partners there, Agra, and the cereal growers of Kenya, looking into trainings and agronomic services for regenerative agriculture. And we went to a community where I met a group of women farmers. They were farmers themselves. They had their own small plot, half an hectare type of size of farms. And those women they created themselves. There were a group of 20 women. They created their own microfinance. So they would save either their production, a portion of their production, or an amount in terms of money to support each other if one of the women would have a challenge in their own production, so they wouldn't have the outputs expected. Or, for example, if they had a case of a child that is sick, and then they needed to trade off, which that happens with smallholders, right? You need to trade off taking your child for childcare, or investing, buying technology input seeds. Sometimes that's the level of, or your kids goes to school. That's the challenging decision making that women have to do. And those women, they had a pool of resources to help other women not to have to go through that trade-off. So when someone was in need, they would try to support and make sure that they could afford the seeds that would give them the good production at the end. And I thought that was, and this was very informal as well in the way that they trust each other, and that was so inspirational. And that was one of the reasons that I, with partners and as well in the organization, I thought, well, how can we have how can we contribute? How can we put a target where we can make sure that we target women farmers as part of our entrepreneurial, part of our projects in terms of empowerment and helping them to get more profitability, but as well as sustainable business income. But that was very powerful for me because it was 3 hours from Nairobi. And something that was informal, but it's the power of network. So that was very inspirational.
Excellent, and I really understand. I had similar experience also in Kenya, and I met one woman that really inspired me to continue with our work. And alone, a single mom with kids. Working in the field, and it's really hard life, but how they manage now and how they grow. So yeah, it was very inspirational for me as well. Thank you for sharing this. We see very often that balancing family life and work duty is kind of a common challenge for women in general, but also women in science, especially working in the field. We have a lot of breeders here, woman breeder as well. And this often influence their decision not to follow leadership roles. So I would like to know, how do you manage the balance between, well, you mentioned already that it's quite hard, the balance between your profession as vice president of an important company like Bayer and your personal life. But also, if you can give us any advice or to any woman who has lacked in the confidence to assume leadership roles because of this challenge, right, of this balance between work and life.
Thank you. I'll start me as a leader, because we are in 2024, and recently I had a team member of mine, which I had just hired with a very important expertise in a senior role. Hired a year ago, and she was pregnant, and she got a meeting, asked for a meeting with me to tell me. And it's 2024, and she's working for me, and she was so concerned about, she was very happy about the fact that she was pregnant, but she was so concerned about what that would mean or impacts the career, because we are going through a big change management at the company as well. So there are a bit of course, anxiety and some of course expected stress. And me as a leader, when I heard that, because I took it for granted, because I thought, well, we foster an environment where you have other women leaders, where we have targets for managerial position in terms of gender balance. And I realized I took for granted, and not because I don't care about it, but I thought this was a non-subject, right? But still, as you mentioned, a lot of women don't feel the confidence or have concerns that sometimes impacts how they decide their next career movement. So I think as a leader and companies, we need to foster an environment where we need to be very clear that has no impact in terms of career development. That's what I told her. I told her, hey, you are pregnant, and then you go on maternity leave, and you come back, and the job will be here. And myself as a leader, and we as a team, we will manage the work, and that should never be a topic of discussion. So first of all, and I think that message really helped her to feel empowered, supported, and as a team as well, because I have other women with kids, and other women mothers. I think that message was very important. So number one. Number two, I think I mentioned about my own. So I do not have kids. I'm married, but I don't have kids. But what I think that we women need to do is feel confident about our expertise, about our purpose, what motivates us, and really take risks if we feel that we don't feel the confidence of taking certain leadership roles. So I mean taking risks, because of course I think we need to make career decisions that really resonate with what we want. So if we feel that we can we want to lead people, we want to inspire people, and we want to be in roles where we can have that leadership position, and we feel that we want to be able to empower others, because that's really what a leadership position is. That's nothing should stop us, because we need more people doing that, and we need more people inspiring and understanding the responsibility of leading others and inspiring others to make a bigger change. So I would advise that if you feel that in your hearts, nothing should stop you, and you should move forward and find the network and the support system that you can in the organization that you are, or voice concerns if you feel the environment is not fostering this career steps for women. So as a leader, I take that responsibility very serious. And as a woman, I think we should, if we feel in our hearts and we understand the responsibility, nothing should stop us. But I know it's hard. I know it's hard. So we need to take care of ourselves as well. As I mentioned, we need to find time to stop. We need to find time to re-energize, be with our closest ones, with our kids, with our loved ones. And then we will be able to be 100% engaged in the work that we are doing. But I know it's hard.
It is. And I feel identified with what you mentioned because I was also hired pregnant by CIMIT. So but we are fortunate to be part of a great institution supporting women, but it's not always the case, no? So what recommendation would you offer, well, for example, to CIMIT or to any other company, and especially in, some countries which are hard, no, for women. I feel we are quite lucky in the environment and the institution we work, but as I say, it's not always the case. So what will be your advice to institutions to enhance and encourage the involvement of women in leadership role and to promote also one very important aspect is youth, no? Young scientists, how we can engage more and keep them engaged, in their work.
Yeah. I'll start with the first part. So for organizations in general, I think we need to foster an environment where those networks can exist, right? So I think any responsible organization should foster networks of women where women can get together and have discussions about what are the challenges for career development or personal challenges, so that network really not only inspire but help to bring solutions, help to bring proposals that can really offer solutions to challenges that might be unique of specific groups, right? Here we're talking about gender. It could be of ethnical background. It can be of, LGBTQI plus community. So organizations should, and I know there are challenges in countries or maybe different, let's say, commitment from organizations. So I think to foster the best talents and the best diversity, organizations should do that, understanding the challenges. We as change leaders or catalysts of change, I believe that if we don't, and I've done that in the past in other organizations, if we don't see that, we should create our informal network. We should seek like-minded people and start as catalysts of change, bringing that into the organization and proposing that those networks are supported and exist. So I think finding like-minded people that believe as us in that change and the importance of those environment for the dialogues, I think is key, because only we can be able to if we wait for HR or if we wait for formal programs to bring solutions, it will be a challenge, right? Because we need to be the ones that drive that. So, and I understand that it's hard, but I think if we want a better environment and a better future, then we should foster that. Number one. Number two, you mentioned about youth. I think what they want, work-life balance, they want to be in an organization and projects that really motivates them, that brings that purpose and shows that bigger impact. So fostering that diversity of environment in terms of how you get a project together, giving voice for youth. I think historically it was kind of standard to maybe get the more senior professionals to speak up or to lead projects? Why not giving young people the voice to challenge us on important projects, but as well to lead maybe certain initiatives that will show them, will help them in their development as well. So I think we need to not only tell young people what to do, but put them on stage and let them tell us what their needs are, what the thinking are. And I think I, from experience, have seen a lot of great ideas and a lot of really breakthrough proposals coming from young people. So I think if they feel that diverse and that purpose is there, that's how you attract talent, but that's as well how you develop talents, at least from my experience in an organization as Bayer.
Thank you, Natasha. And I think one of the last question, it's what do you think are the main barriers to achieving gender equality, gender balance, and of young people especially? In your experience, how far we are to really reach this balance, this gender balance? You know, a lot of improvement have been done during the last years, but how far we are to really see this balance in place, and what are the barriers stopping to reach this balance?
Yeah, no, thank you for the question. I think, well, a few things. First of all, I generalizing, I think we're getting much better as women, and I'm talking from my own experience, but we sometimes hesitate. We would see a role and we would screen the qualifications, and if there's one thing that maybe we are not there, we would maybe, in general terms, the women that I know, and I'm talking about myself, we will be questioning, am I really ready for that job? And maybe hesitating in applying for it. In general, and I have a brother that I love, I don't see men doing that as much as us. They would be like, okay, I can learn, right? I will learn and I will engage. So I think there is the way we approach things, and, you know, as I mentioned, taking risks, because I've done that in the past. And I learned that we don't need to be 100% right with meeting all the qualification needs. If we know we can do it, if we are inspired to do it, let's just try and do it and get ourselves ready. I think that the outcome will surprise us. So I think that's different in terms of approach. But I think in terms of how organization, I think organizations need to foster this intentionally. And I'll give you an example that gave me a lot of discussions with HR, and we got to a good point. Now it became part of our procedure. But in the past, I don't know, a few years ago, I was going through a hiring process and was open for external talents. And I really needed, there was an urgent gap, a big gap that I had in terms of expertise in the organization. After 2 months, I had 50 candidates, 42 men, 45 men, and 5 women. And I really needed to, this was an urgent thing, but I came back to HR. I said, I not interview, even when I let's say filter to the ones that were meeting the needs of the job. I still had 70% men, 30% women. I said, I'm not going to go into an interview panel of 70% men and 30% women. I want to have, even if I do more interviews, a 50-50 pool of candidates. Let's work more. Let's do headhunting. I will hire professional headhunting, but I want the women are there. And we need to find them. There's a lot of women there. I think it's because of the geography that I was targeting, but I went above and beyond, and I said, we need to have 50% pool. I can end up with a man, but I want a fair pool of candidates. So this is little thing, but we need to be intentional. And nowadays, I will never do an interview process where I don't have a gender balance as a pool of candidates. So those are things, but they can be so transformational.
Thank you. Natasha, I would like you to give some thoughts about, you mentioned nice words about mentorship, networking, empower women groups. Any thoughts about that, especially for the all women in the audience? I mean, we are part of a nice institution, and we try to listen to the experience from different women in leadership roles. So any thought, any advice to us?
Thank you. Oh my God. We're seeking for advice from all of you as well. As I mentioned, I think number one is us being intentional. As I mentioned, I do have a network of women that I created. I seek and I said, hey, I admire you. I think we have complementary knowledge. I think you bring a different perspective. Can we be friends? Can we be buddies on WhatsApp? Brazilians love a WhatsApp. And can I reach out to you with some topics or questions, and you can do the same to me? So I was very intentional, or this is my personal network, number one. That makes a difference. I feel I can tap into bigger networks, and I saw that was inspirational for them as well. So number one, I think number two, even we are all very busy, and of course, work-life balance. I need to manage my team and travel around the world. But when I do have women seeking for mentorship, even if it is a one-time off, even if it is guidance on whatever it is, I'm always happy. Or to refer to another women, I'm always trying to go extra mile here to support other women. And then we have done in the company something. We do have a mentorship program, a coaching program where women leaders, again, because our time can be so complicated, our schedule can be so complicated. So this is a one-time off type of coaching or mentorship. Leaders like me, we can be available, and then with a specific topic that I feel more inspired to support other women, particularly young women in their organization. And then they offer those one-off, let's say 1 hour conversation. There's a guidance for women to prepare for that conversation. Just be specific. What do you want to know? What is your career advice? But then you offer at least 1 hour of your time every quarter to have that individual conversation with women. And it's not only me, it's a pool of women leaders in the company. And I know that has been quite helpful, particularly for women early in their careers. So I think organizations can innovate, and we can always go a little bit of the extra mile without making something that would be too complicated in the schedule. But we should be. I am committed to the next generation. I'll continue to do, because that was important to me. And I think we can foster that together with other women leaders. So maybe some examples from my side.
Thank you, Natasha. So I would like to see if there is any question. Isabel?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Caro. Thank you very much, Carolina Sansaloni, for having this very rich and enlightening conversation with Natasha Santos. So now we would like to open the floor for questions from the audience. We invite you to raise your hands, to turn on your camera and unmute yourself if you would like to ask a question or comment, or you can submit it via Slido. So there is one first question. Where do you find inspiration, or what excites you the most about your work today?
Thank you for the question. My inspirations are the farming community, the farmers. When I make sure, because I work in an office, right? Because We are. I'm one of the senior executives of the company, but I make sure I visit a farm and a farmer at least every month, and I always make sure I go to a farm and I talk to a farmer in every single country that I go. Even if I go to a country to have meetings with governments or meetings at the office only, I always save a day to go into a farming visit, because first of all, those are my customer and I need to be customer centric. But second of all, that's what gives me motivation. That's really what inspires me. That I mentioned, I'm a knowledge seeker. That's how I learn, and how I do my job better is when I hear directly from the farmers. If it's a big farmer in Iowa, the US, or if it's a smallholder in India, in Bangladesh, in Kenya, in Mexico, I make sure that I always that's my inspiration. Those communities and those guys out there, and women and men out there doing farming and sharing that knowledge with us. So that's what inspires me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So what are some of the recommendations that you can give for a mother or for a woman to pursue career and higher education in order to transform into a better leader?
That's a great question. I think we are all in our own journey, but I think constant learning is key, is critical. Recently, I subscribed to a sustainable finance course. This is my area of expertise, but there's so much happening. This topic is evolving so much, and I realized that could be. I needed to update myself on that, so I've done that personally, and I invested my own resources to do that, because I'm investing on myself and I'm investing on me in terms of being a better professional and a better leader. I have recently supported someone from my team that wanted to pursue. It's a season. Is a senior. Is in a vice president level. Wanted to pursue a PhD. Another PhD, and that would mean to dedicate some time to do that. And I gave my full support. And I think so. I'm talking from my leaders, but from my team member experience, he was really clear on why it's an investment to me, and it can be an investment to the company as well in terms of pursuing this research area that can contribute to, in this case, sustainability new business models that will support some of our sustainability strategies. So it made the case for him and for the company. And with that, it was an investment for my talent, but as well for the company to grant that time. So I would recommend that you make that case for you, of course, but if you are actively in an organization and you would like to do education and keep working, I think creating a business case as well to your organization and how that can impact, I think is a tactic and is a opportunity as well to get support from, let's say, your current manager. So that worked with me, and I'm very happy that I did that for my team member.
Thank you. What have been the main obstacles that you have come across in your professional career, and what words of wisdom would you could you share with young and mid-career women professionals who might be struggling with similar issues?
Thank you for the question. My main challenge in my career is that I was always one generation before my peers. I started working very young, and I'm fortunate to have had a, let's say, accelerated career development where I got into senior positions, and I was always the youngest on that position with my peers. So that was motivational, and I think that brought a diversity where the organizations I worked for saw the value. But for me personally, since the beginning of my career, when I was, let's say, a government affairs executive in Brazil, I was a manager of government affairs, leading a group of 6 people when I was 25. when I would go to have meetings with governments, they would, a few, let's say, politicians in certain age would not really take me serious. So I needed to, let's say, push myself to get what I wanted. Number one. Number two, even nowadays, as a senior executive in sustainability, I find I have experienced challenges in terms of how I look and my age. So I think that has been quite of a challenge, but actually that motivated me. It gave me even more energy to be that one that maybe inspire younger generations. And I'm not saying, and I'm not saying that only the greats 40 under 40s are the way forward. I think seasoned professionals as well are really important in terms of diversity. But my own experience was always being the youngest in my peer group. Sometimes being challenged and being second guessed because of that. And that could maybe, if I had a different personality, hinder me or maybe me subconscious or made me second guess my abilities or my likelihood of success, particularly when I started leading big teams. Today I have a team of more than 50 people. But that never stopped me. That gave me more energies, because the fact that I can inspire next generations is, for me, motivation. And maybe it's because of my mom, my grandma, my great mother. So that was a challenge, to be a young woman in positions, in high position, and dealing with other senior people from different private, public sector has been quite of an interesting journey, but it had motivated me.
Thank you so much, Natasha. Any final thought, any final comment that you would like to share with us, with the audience, before we close the event?
No, first of all, I'm so honored, and I want to thank you again for inviting me for this conversation. I want to thank you, everybody that has been with us for this next hour, that has listened. Thank you for taking the time. I hope that helped you on your personal journey a little bit. I think those are the type of initiatives that really we should never take for granted, because it really makes a difference, hearing and relating to other women and understanding that we can. Representation is really important. So I want to congratulate you that has joined us. And, I'm here, I'm available as well. So if you ever feel like you'd like to share a thought or a question, to the best of my ability and my schedule, I am always open to exchange. So you can always find me on LinkedIn. And please, let's break bias. Let's pursue that better world, and really be bold and be energized to make bigger and transformational impact to communities around the world. So, and this is an organization that does that to research. So let's be mindful of the importance of our roles and the impact that we have for communities out there. So thank you so much. Feel very honored, feel very blessed. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Bram. Thank you, Carolina. And happy to join any other time that you would like me to. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for being a very successful leader and an inspiration for all of us, raising the importance of erasing diversity, women empowering, and seeking knowledge as mentorship for decision-making, being professionally proactive and self-confident. On behalf of Brian Goberts, Director General of CIMIT, we thank you so much for sharing with us your rich experience and professional growth. We congratulate you. We very much appreciate you being here today, and thank you for your valuable time. Also, we thank the audience that joined today. Do not miss our following Catalyst of Change, Women Leaders in Science series. Have a nice day. Have a nice evening. Thank you.
My name is Juliana Lemire, and I'm a writer at the American Council on Science and Health. I went to college at the University of New Hampshire, and I majored in microbiology. And then I decided I wanted to go and get my graduate degree, my PhD. And so I went and I got my PhD in microbiology at Tufts University in Boston at the School of Medicine. So I've always been fascinated by how bacteria and viruses that are so small and so simple are still winning a lot of the competition with us. And I like to think about the ones that have been around for a long time, like for example, HIV, and also topics that are more current in the news, like antibiotic resistance bacteria, and even Zika, which is, really for us, really brand new. The difference in how scientists can understand something and how the public can understand something. I mean, there's really no reason why only scientists should understand science. And especially when people are making decisions based on this science. Those ideas and those thoughts, when we flesh them out together in the meeting, definitely become better and more colorful and more well-rounded by having everybody's input, by discussing things together.
Please join our next seminar in the Catalyst of Change series.